Hey guys, welcome to Warhammer Stuff. Today we have the Grey Knights of the Silver Blades Brotherhood, and we have the Black Templars. So let's go ahead and check out the armies.
Alright, so for today, I'm actually bringing Black Templars. Unfortunately, due to the mods and stuff, I can't get all Black Templar models for everything. I just couldn't figure that out. But I'm playing Black Templars. So here's basically what I'm doing. I have 2,000 points, or 1,997, of flavor Black Templar. So I'm going for more of a flavor. I want to get like all the goodies of it. So starting off with, of course, my Warlord, High Marshal Helbrecht. Yeah, he's my Warlord. I'm using him. He gives a lot of good AoE buffs, and he's a very powerful warrior fighter. Then I have Chaplain Grimaldus, another great character. And so he has some pretty good litanies. I have chosen, Litany of Divine Protection and Fires of Devotion. And so basically, +1 attack, I believe. Yeah, Litany of Divine Protection is a 5-up Feel No Pain for one selected Black Templar squad. Fires of Devotion is +1 attack if they basically got in combat that first turn, so that's going to be very useful. And all of his associate buffs from his servitors that he gives, very useful for a rush. Then I have the Emperor's Champion, of course, another flavor. He cannot receive any more relics, but he can receive an extra Warlord trait, and so I gave him Master of Arms, which is basically +1 attack. And so he'll have 6 attacks, and he has always fight first. So, I mean, he always has fight first anyway against characters, but now he always fights first, and he has 6 attacks now. Then I have an Apothecary. Technically is one of my Elite's choices, but it is a character. And then I have this Assault Centurion Sergeant. Now, he's not a character, but the Black Templars have some very interesting things about them, is that I can select a Sword Brother or a Sergeant, and I can essentially sort of make them a character, where I can give them a special trait, which gives them +1 attack, +1 wound, and +1 to their weapon skill. And for every squad, I can give a relic to the squad that's held by one model in there. The book says to make it unique and distinct. So this guy has a relic which gives him -1 damage. So he's not a character.
Oh, like an armor?
Yeah. So no. All damage against him is -1, and so he's weapon skill 2. He's 5 wounds and 5 attacks. So I'm counting him here as a character because he essentially is.
I was wondering what he was doing there.
Yeah. So he essentially is a character, but he's not really a character. And then on to troops. One squad of Primaris Crusaders. So it has a total of, 10 Primaris Initiates, which is basically the Space Marine, and 8 Primaris Neophytes, which is basically the Scout, and they all have chain swords and bolt pistols. And the Primaris Sword Brother has a heavy bolt pistol and power sword. I cannot get the right model for a lot of these things, but yeah. Then I have 2 squads of Crusader squads, small ones, with 4 initiates, which is basically 4 Space Marines, and then the Sword Brother. All of them have the same weapons: bolt pistol, bolt gun. I just couldn't find the correct models and stuff. So their stats are accurate to them. So basically these are 2 shooty units. Now, on to Elites. I have a Contemptor Dreadnought, which once again I could not find the right model, so I just went with a Black Templar-ish one. And so he has a Multi-Melta and Bolter. Yeah, the one downside of Tabletop Simulator or these mods is that you can't always get the exact model. So what you see and what you get doesn't matter, but the stats are what matters. That is accurate. Then I have...
They show you what they have on the stats.
Yeah, so then I have this squad of Assault Centurions, which all have the same stuff: Flamer, Hurricane Bolter, and Siege Drills. And of course the Sergeant, which is denoted by having Last Cannons. It's the only distinction I could find for one. And then we have in the Fast Attack 2 units of Outriders. So, pretty good for fast attacks. And then finally a Land Raider Crusader, because that really fits the Black Templars, and also there's a unique stratagem involving them. I wanted to do the Redeemer, or pretty much every other one, not this one, but yeah, it's a pretty good vehicle. So gave it the Hunter Killer Missile, Multi-Melta, in addition to its Hurricane Bolters and Twin Assault Cannons. So with that out of the way, that is 2,000 points of Black Templar flavor.
All right, you guys. So for my 2,000 points of Grey Knights, Silver Blades, so the 8th Brotherhood, I have actually quite a few characters. But so as far as HQs go, I wanted to have Kaldor Drago. I wanted to try out all the named characters. So last game was Crow, this time it's Drago. He is not my warlord, but he is a very strong puncher. He's got 6 attacks base. He's got the Titan sword, which gives him +4 strength, -4 AP, flat 3 damage. He has 3 psychic abilities. So he has Empiric Amplification, Vortex of Doom, and Ghostly Bonds. Ghostly Bonds allow me to have the movement of an enemy nearby. Vortex of Doom is basically a mortal wounds thing, and Empiric Amplification basically boosts my damage against things that it gets on. My next HQ and my warlord is a Brotherhood Librarian who has Temporal Accuracy, Gate of Infinity, and Warp Shaping. Well, actually, they all have Temporal Accuracy, so I guess I won't even mention that one going forward. But Gate of Infinity, again, is the one that lets me teleport core units around, core infantry. And Warp Shaping lets me change the tide of the warp that's currently going. And I gave him a Warlord trait, Unyielding Anvil, so he can give units nearby him, what is it, where they hold objective secure. And then if they already have objective secured, they count as 2 models, so they count as an extra model. So instead of a squad of 5 with objective secured, it's a squad of 10 with objective secured, which is pretty cool. It does mean, unlike the last game, he'll have to be farther up front to be relevant, though, so we'll see how that goes. And I wanted to try a Brotherhood Chaplain, and he has 2 word litanies of purity. Sorry, is the phrase for the Grey Knight Chaplain things. Litany of Expulsion, which allows him to put it on a Grey Knight core or Grey Knight character within 6 inches, where they can reroll the hit rolls. And Words of Power, which, when making a melee attack with a Nemesis weapon, unmodified wound rolls of 6 wounds the target 1 additional time. And if Tide of Convergence is dominant for my army, so the Tide of the Warp, they also suffer 1 more. The target also suffers 1 more wound. I guess that's in addition to, so they would be 2 mortal wounds on 6s to hit. Next to him, going into troops, is 2 squads of 5 Grey Knight Terminators. So these are just Brotherhood Terminators. And for the entire army, the sergeants all have demon hammers, and everyone else has halberds. Last game I tried the little warp sticks, the staves, did not care for them. Had the swords, did not care for those. And so Brotherhood Terminators have hammer hand, and other than that, though, they're just a basic Terminator squad of 5. Behind them are 3 more squads of troops. This time I thought, because of the Silver Blades, what they do, I figured I'd try just a bunch of troops and some buff characters and see how that goes. So these are 3 squads of 5 identical strike squads, bunch of halberds, and the Justicars have demon hammers. And that's it for my troop section. So I have 5 troops, which means all 5 of these squads are objective secured. Now moving on to my elites. So I'll start off with the 2 characters. So I have a Brotherhood Ancient, who has a Sacred Banner, which essentially means that core infantry, which is my entire army, except for obviously my characters, actually some of them might be core, I'll look at that later, have +1 to hit, and they have +1 attack, so he'll make them quite mean. And he has a falchion, so I paid the 5 points for that, so he can actually fight in combat. Not that that will be where I want him to be, but it didn't save the last one. So, and then I have an apothecary because I don't know, why not try it out. Now they don't have, unlike Space Marines, they don't have the upgrades for them, so he's not like a chapter. I forget what the apothecary upgrade is, but anyway,
Selfless
he
healer.
doesn't have that.
Yeah.
And the Ancient has Empiric Amplification, as does the Chaplain, just so you know, because the Grey Knight Chaplains are also Psychers, interestingly enough. I forgot to mention that. But anyway, so the Brotherhood Apothecary has Gate of Infinity, so he'll be able to teleport guys around. And then to his right is a squad of 6 Purifiers. Last game they did not have a good go, but I feel like that was just kind of like where they ended up. So I'm going to give them another go, and again, their Sergeant or Knight of the Flames for Purifier has a Demon Hammer. And yeah, that's it for them. Then going into fast attacks is just 3 squads of Interceptors. The Justicars have Demon Hammers. 2 squads or squads of 6 because I had the points, and I did not have enough points for the 3rd squad to have 6, so they just have 5. And that is my 2,000 points of Grey Knights Silver Blades.
All right, everyone. So for today, we have rolled Data Scry Salvage, mission number 1-3. And so it is a Control 2, Control 3, Control More. And we each have, so the secondary is we have to complete a action on our home objective. And at the end of our turn, we will get points depending on how many of the No Man's Land objectives we control. And so it's going to be very interesting, and just I will put this here. So because I'm playing Black Templars, they have vows, and there's 4 vows, and after I read the mission, I have to select which vow I'm going to play by. And so this mission means I can't take the Abhor the Witch one, because I can't do actions if an Psyker's within 18 inches of me, so I can't do that. So I will be taking the second vow, which I cannot remember right now, but I know which one it is. It's the one that gives me transhuman and a 5-up invulnerable save army-wide. So that's what's going to happen. Alright, so for Black Templars, since I'm mostly melee, I want to be able to rush up. Now my opponent doesn't have that much shooting, so I basically wanted to place as many walls and barriers up so I could run to cover to get ready into a good fight. I mean, just in case he had some shooting. So basically the idea was to put something that could, like towards the middle of the map, that would block off most lines of sight of shooting, so I could run up to it and the next turn do some good charges. And that pretty much was my idea entirely.
Yeah, so based off of his Black Templar trait, I don't know what it's called.
Vow?
Vow, yeah, there you go. Essentially, he can't benefit from cover. And neither of us really have any shooting. I have storm bolters. He has bolt pistols. And then I guess the assault centurions have hurricane bolters. But so I was like, well, I don't really need a lot of cover. So I was like, and he can't benefit from it. I was like, I'll just put like area terrain, so like light cover, and like I think it's dense cover. Just put it around so that way it'll help me, but it really can't benefit him, except for slowing him down. And I guess technically slowing me down too, but you know, whatever. But yeah, so that was kind of the idea. I don't know if it'll work out, because even with enough shots, it'll eventually do damage. Or I'll roll poorly and take a lot of damage. So that was the idea. We'll see how it goes.
All right. So for secondaries, this is pretty interesting because it's the first time I'm taking 2 from the army book. So first I'm going to start off with Carry Out Your Vows, which is a ridiculous one. Yeah, so here's essentially what it is at the end of each battle round, I will score 4 points if I destroyed more enemy units in melee than they have destroyed me that turn. So it's a better version of that other one. I can't remember what it's called. I have to destroy more of his units than I lose, but by melee. Second thing.
Oh, like what? Grind them down?
Yeah, that's it. And so the second thing is I can only earn up to 12 points using that objective. However, at the end of the battle, I have a special objective that I will gain 3 points for if I complete it, and it's based off the vow I took. So I chose Honor the Emperor, Uphold the Honor of the Emperor, and basically I have to have 1 unit of Black Templar infantry that's not a character unit, that is not below half strength, and it has to be in my opponent's deployment zone at the end of the battle. So basically I have to have 1 of my infantry in my opponent's deployment zone at the end of the battle, and I will gain 3 more victory points. So we'll see how that goes. Then I have Bathe Your Blade, which I looked at it and I was like, you know what, it's pretty good, it's possible. So what I do is I select one of my, in the pre-battle, I select one of my characters. Then I select one of my opponent's characters. And then I will gain 5 points for each of the following things that happen. If that enemy model that was selected is destroyed, I gain 5 points. If it was destroyed by melee, I gain 5 points. If it was destroyed by melee, by the model, my model, I gain 5 points. So if I just kill it in melee, I'll gain 10 points easy. If he dies, I get 5 points. If the guy selected to kill him kills him in melee, that's 15 points. So I was like, you know what? That's pretty good. That's doable in this game. And then Abhor the Witch, because he's Grey Knights, and this is an easy 15. And so that is my secondaries.
Yeah, so I am going to take Teleport Assault. It is the Grey Knight secondary that I think is probably the easiest for them to do. I did not have any success with it last game, so we'll see how that goes this game. To be fair, I had a lot of garbage charges though last game, but there's no guarantees it'll be any better this game. And then I took Engage on all fronts. Pretty mobile army, lots of troops, lots of teleporting mobility. So I'm hoping that'll be an easy one to do. And then I really didn't know what to do for the third one, so I chose Nephilim Data. And yeah, that's pretty much it. We'll see how we go with it. But yeah, so these are all of my secondaries.
Alright, so for deployment, the Black Templars won which side to go as defender, and they selected that side as defender, and they placed first. So they placed Chaplain Grimaldus. So for me, playing Black Templars, what I was thinking was Grimaldus gives a bunch of movement buffs, so I want to have everyone next to him at the start, so I gain all those buffs. And then apart from that, it was more of a chessboard of trying to see where he puts his units. Unfortunately, because he has so many different units, that for some reason, I'm the Horde army, and yet I'm outnumbered. He has... yeah, super ancient, hard to recruit Grey Knights, BS. And so...
we got tired of all your Black Templar crap.
Says the witches. Anyway, so basically, I basically Death Starred a Death Ball of Death around Grimaldus to give initial movement buffs. I had my Outriders, since they have such a ridiculously long range, to basically be on the sides, ready to sort of balance it out. I wanted to use them to bait them out, because they can pretty much go anywhere on the map very easily. So it wasn't that big of a deal for me to put them out in the back there. But then, like, my opponent was just doing equally on every side, and so I couldn't really bait anything out. And so I then put my heavy puncher, the Land Raider Crusader, which of course has my Apothecary and my whatchamacallit, those Centurions inside it. And so they basically, everything's in the center, because I was placing my things to be able to counter my opponent, try to bait out his important strong stuff, but he didn't give me anything to aim for, so I basically went with everything really centered, prepared to spread out and react to wherever my opponent moves. And so that is pretty much how I set up my troops.
Yeah, so with my setup, I really didn't know what to expect, or really kind of what to do. I mean, we're both melee armies, so, I mean, I just put everything on the front. I don't know why I put them farther back. I guess they have such large movement. My interceptors don't actually need to be super up close, but that's not relevant, I guess. So I literally just have one squad on my objective, and then everything else is ready to take other objectives. I spread out my Librarian separate from the Ancient and the Chaplain. I figured those guys would make a nice little death tornado, and the Librarian could really help buff the other guys up top. And then I kept my Terminators, Drago, and my Apothecary in Teleport Strike, so they can kind of show up where it's needed, which I think I know where they would show up at this point, but we'll see how we go as the game develops. But yeah, so that was kind of my setup, really just to the front to get into combat faster and to get to objectives faster.
Alright everyone, so who should go first? Do you want to start explaining why you should go first or second?
I think... I actually don't know. I think probably going first. Going first will allow me to take all of the middle objectives, I believe. I could be wrong. I might miss this bottom one here. But it'll allow me to take all those objectives, and then... I don't know if you could get into range of anything to charge, because maybe the Outriders, I guess, unless, of course, they run, because you don't have charge and run, I don't think. But yeah, so it will allow me to take. I mean, if I go second, I guess I could probably charge a few of your units, maybe. But that's pretty much it. I don't know. There's not. I don't know if it matters so much in this game like it has in previous games. So, but I would probably choose to go first if I could.
Alright. So for me, first or second, I expect a second turn charge, or if I go second, to get a first turn charge. So no matter what, whoever go second person to go gets the charge. So here's basically essentially what I see. What I see is if I go first, I can't get a charge. I can get a charge roll, but I can't get a guaranteed charge, so it's not worth it. It's too much risk.
It would be super unlikely.
And also, they would have no support from others, so they would just be wiped out the next turn. So there's no point in doing that. And so, essentially, the first turn, I would rapidly take the objectives and take the center, and then I would basically have advantage. Opponent could see me, shoot me. If he charges me, I could probably deny a lot of his charges by careful positioning of my guys so he can't get within that half inch on the terrain. And so if I go first, it's mostly me setting up for the next turn. If he goes first and takes the objectives, I get a bunch of first turn charges for my infantry, I believe. And yeah, and that's kind of pretty much how it would go from there. Yeah, so first turn is set up. If I go second, just slaughter immediately, get a heads up. And yeah, so that's pretty much what I think is going to happen. But as far as what I would want to go, objective-wise, it makes no difference. I'm not going to gain anything special if I go second. Well, actually, no. Whoever goes first is going to have the first chance of getting Data Scribe. So there's that.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, so whoever goes first could probably easily get 2 to 3 points on their first turn, just cause. So that's something to keep in mind. So
that's true. So what do you want to do then? First turn or second?
It's really hard to say because you can throw away an entire game trying to get some early points and ruin your positioning. So whoever goes first could easily get 3 points. That's pretty much it. You know what? I probably would say, like, strategically, it'd probably be better to go first simply just to get those 3 points. And I'd have to play very carefully with how I position to make sure that I don't get screwed on any counter charges. So that's what I'd say. First turn is actually what we would both want, unless, like, we're going to play the second turn, the long game, the second half of the game. But none of us are Tau, so it doesn't count.
Yep.
All right.
Not important to us.
So first turn, 3 points.
All right.
Yes!
Looks like it's you.
Black Templar turn 1. Alright, so my Warlord, Helbrecht, issues a challenge. Actually, no, wait, no. The Emperor's Champion issues the challenge to his Brotherhood Ancient. So if his Brotherhood Ancient dies, 5 points. Dies in melee, 10 points. If the Emperor's Champion kills him, that's 15 points. So that is my pre-battle game. Alright, so command phase. Basically what I did was I had the Chaplain Grimaldus give his litanies to the Primaris squad, so they have a 5-up, feel no pain, and they have +1 attack on their first round of combat. He used both their litanies on them. Then High Marshal Helbrecht gave them the Chapter Master reroll to hit. And then after that, everyone moved up. So High Marshal moved up towards the main objective, the Primaris Neophytes moved up to there, the Chaplain moved up to there, Squad of Initiates behind him moved up north, as well as the Outriders moved. They took the north, they took one objective on the bottom, the Contemptor Dreadnought moved into range to see the enemy, and then in the end the Land Raider moved up to get in the center to do a 50-50 split if needed. And yeah. And that was movement. The reason why I was able to run so far so often is because all Black Templars within 6 inches of Grimaldus get D3 plus 3 for their run instead of a regular D6, so minimum 4 inches each. Okay, so for my shooting phase, essentially what happened is I really only had the Land Raider and the Contemptor to shoot. So the Land Raider fired everything at the Green Grey Knight squad, and all the Hurricane Bolters did absolutely nothing. Then his multi-melta shots missed, and then did a 1 for damage. 1 for a wound. So, like, nothing came out of that. And then the assault cannons fired, but because he was assault doctrine, I was actually able to do some wounds. And so I killed one and did a wound. Then the Contemptor Dreadnought on the bottom had a straight line to them and fired with his multi-melta and Stormbolters and successfully hit with one multi-melta and did, well, one of them already had a wound, so that one was wiped out. So they lost 2 guys, and that was my entirety of my shooting phase. Alright, not an eventful first turn, but I moved up and I was able to get a successful 3 points for Data Scry. And that's it.
So for movement, essentially, where to start? Okay, so Red Squad, they just moved up. They had the movement. They were able to take this top objective. Then my Purple Interceptor Squad, I didn't want to run them because I wanted them to shoot a little bit. So they're just off of that objective. And then my Brotherhood Librarian, who I want to do stuff with, I had him not run, so he could only move 5. So the Green Squad moved just to help give him some cover. The Yellow Squad on my home objective just kind of moved up a little bit into the middle. And then the rest of my army, the Chaplain and the Ancient, kind of created a little turtle dome here, because so much of his army seems to have poured down this way, or I guess up this way from your guys' screen. And so, yeah, I didn't really know what to do with them, because I'm going to try and avoid getting charged by him, but we will see what happens, because he's still, so he's relatively close, 10 inches, yeah. So I don't know if I'll be able to avoid it, but at the very least I'll have a lot of my army in that area to do stuff. I don't know. Yeah. So, alright, you guys. So for my Psychic phase, almost nothing happened. So my Purple Interceptors used their spell Ethereal Castigation, which allowed them to basically shoot and then move. So I shot at the Contemptor, doing 2 wounds to it. And then they moved up to take this objective. Then my Librarian did Warp Shaping to essentially change it. I wanted to have a Celerity for movement, but I realized I didn't actually end up needing it. And so I changed it to Tidal Convergence to give my melee a little extra oomph, because I have a sneaking suspicion I am going to need it. And that was pretty much it, actually. My blue squad of Grey Knights, the Strike Squad, tried Hammerhand and they failed on a 3. And then there's really nothing else in range to do anything else. So I let it go. But yes, that was my Psychic phase, just 2 spells.
Yeah, but the Purple Interceptors, when they got to move and shoot, shot at the Contemptor and did 2 wounds to it.
Yeah.
Alright.
Alright, you guys, so this can essentially be put into 2 sections. All of these guys, so the bottom half, so the 2 Interceptor squads, the Grey Knights and my Librarian, shot at the Contemptor. They did no wounds in the shooting phase. I guess the purple guys technically didn't shoot because they did it last phase, but so those 3 squads shot, they shot at the Contemptor, did nothing. Then the squad on my home objective, the yellow squad, shot at the Land Raider Crusader, and they did nothing. And then the entire top half for you guys from your view. So my Purifiers, my Interceptors, my Strike Squad, my Ancient, and my Chaplain all shot at the Crusader, and they did 1 wound. So, victory, you guys. And yeah, that was my shooting phase. Alright, you guys, so I had 2 charges. The blue squad charged his Outriders, and they actually got in with a 7. We'll see how that goes. And then my Interceptors, the red squad at the bottom, tried to charge his Contemptor. I needed a 10. I knew it was a long shot, but I figured I'd go for it anyway, and they failed. So, no real issue there. But, you know, it would have been nice, but I wasn't expecting it. But the one that I was expecting did get in, so that's nice. Alright, you guys, so for my fight phase, my Strike Squad did 5 wounds, but because of Tidal Convergence and the Chaplain gave them Words of Power, it gave them double mortal wounds on 6s, and I rolled 2 6s. So I did 5 regular wounds, because he failed the saves, and 4 mortal wounds on top of that, doing 9 damage total. So I cleared out 2 bikes and did a wound. And then my Justicar swung, and he was just not quite able to seal the deal on that one. So he missed 2 out of his 4 attacks, and then he rolled double 2s for the wound. And because he's a bike,
No,
he's toughness 5.
Oh, not because I'm a bike. Is the 2 wounds for your diamond hammer?
Yeah.
So the reason is because I have the vow, uphold the honor of the emperor, gives me transhuman on a 1 and 2. So you wouldn't have wounded me.
Well, either way though, he would have failed because of toughness 5. So the demon hammer gives him strength 8. So I guess I'll be wide. You can't be wounded on a 2.
Yeah.
But also in this case, because you're toughness 5, it meant that he lost. And then I used a command point because even just 1 going through would have finished off the sergeant. However, he rolled another 2. So just depressing. Then he swung back, did 2 damage, and he was able to kill off one of my Grey Knights, which was not nice. But that was the fight phase.
Very back and forth.
Alright, you guys, so I really messed up my secondaries. I forgot to do literally all of them. So I forgot Nephilim data to start that one. I forgot my data scry salvage to start that one, because that would have been 5 points, and then that would have been one notch for the Nephilim. However, I am conveniently in 3 out of the 4 quarters, so I was at least able to get 2 points for engage on all fronts. So that's probably going to come back to bite me, but that's okay. I mean, live and learn.
Alright, so for command phase first, Grimaldus gave 5 up Feel No Pain Litany to the Primaris Neophytes Green Squad, and he gave the +1 attack to the same squad. The High Marshal gave them the Chapter Master rerolls. And as for movement, everyone moved up towards potential targets. Emperor's Champion split off to deal with the Blue Halberd Knight Squad. I have faith in him. We'll see how that goes. Templar Dreadnought moved towards the Purple Squad. Outriders moved towards the Red Squad on the bottom. Land Raider moved up to get some line of sight and stuff, and we'll see how that goes. Alright, so for the shooting phase, my Outriders mag dumped the Interceptors and successfully killed like 1 of them, or no, 2 of them. And then the Contemptor Dreadnought fired all his Melta and Bolt Gun into the his Storm Bolter into the Purple Squad of Interceptors, did absolutely nothing. Then the Land Raider mag dumped them and successfully killed 3 of them with his Multi-Melta assault cannons. The Hurricane Bolters didn't do anything. Then we moved up north. The High Marshal Hellbricht shot at the Inceptors in the Oil Slick and successfully killed one with his bolt rifle. Then the Emperor's Champion fired at the same unit and did absolutely nothing. Alright, so for my charge phase, I started off with High Marshal Hellbricht. And he charged the Purifiers, and he successfully made it, because he has +1 to charge, and he rolled well. Now, something happened that was a bit of a mistake on my part, because I don't know, I misunderstood it. So essentially, if I declare a charge against something that Hellbricht charges into, they get +1 to charge, but also multi-charged into Interceptors. But like, so in my mind, it was like, if part of my squad went into there, part of them would be minus to move, and the rest would be fine to charge. And so, like, it really screwed me up. My opponent allowed me to like redeclare and redo the charge, because I also like spent a CP to re-roll it. It failed, but like, so my opponent allowed it simply because like I misunderstood, like going in like he would affect the entire squad, and so then I just had my green Primera squad target the Inceptors and just rolled back naturally. My opponent was gracious on that, and so then they rolled a 10 to make it in, of course. And then the Emperor's Champion declared a charge against the blue Riders. He made it in, easy. And at the bottom, the Outriders charged the Interceptors and hit them. And then the Contemptor Dreadnought charged the Purple Squad and got into them. So we'll see how this game goes. Alright, so it was a pretty difficult fight phase because I had to carefully choose where to go first, because I knew he had the points to counterattack, and I need to be very careful. However, the Emperor's Champion, because the Warlord trait I gave him, fights first, so I started off with him. And he swung and used his thrusting abilities, so he would have AP -4, damage 3, and he wiped out the squad he was in, and he consolidated towards the enemy. Then, I had Hellbricht swing, and he successfully, with his strong attacks, killed 4 of the Purifiers. Then my opponent interrupted, and he had his squad interceptors that swing on the Primaris interceptors, or the Primaris Crusader squad, which was the big green squad. And they successfully killed 4 of my neophytes. I had the attacks on my neophytes. They have a 4-up armor save, but because I had the 5-up invulnerable save from the Vow, and that I had also the the 5-up Feel No Pain from the Litany, I had very few casualties. I only had 4. He probably would have slaughtered much more.
Super annoying.
And I also activated a stratagem called Vicious Riposte. So for every death that I have in that squad, on a 5-up, they will do 1 mortal wound in return. So I lost 4 guys, I rolled 4 dice, did 1 mortal wound in return. And then after that, I then had my Outriders on the bottom swing, and they did really good, but they also did really bad at the same time. They only killed 2 of them, despite having 19 attacks on the charge, so that was disappointing. And then the Contemptor Dreadnought swung and killed 2 of the Interceptors. He just needed to kill 1 more, but my opponent made his save. So that was disappointing. And then after that, I had my Green Squad Primaris swing, and so they have 2 attacks each, including the Neophyte. I have Chain Swords that turns to 3. I charge this turn, which turns to 4 for the their Astartes Doctrine. And then I have a 5th attack for each because of the Litany that my Chaplain Grimaldus gave them. So they swung with 60 attacks. And in the end, they only killed 4 guys. He rolled so many saves. It's so dumb. And yeah, and that was it for my swings. Then he started swinging back, and so he had his 2 Purifiers swing on Helbrecht, and they killed him.
That's right, they did.
So the first one, the regular guy swung, did 2 wounds against him, and then the guy, the sergeant with the Demon Hammer swung, and my Helbrecht just needed 3s, and he rolled 4 2-ups, and each of those were 3 damage each, and he just straight up died.
He got smushed by the hammer.
That was so disappointing. And then his Interceptors red on the bottom swung against my Outriders, did absolutely nothing. I saved the 1 save I had to make. And then his Interceptor swung at my Contemptor, and my Contemptor made it. So everyone made their saves except Helbrecht, which took it to the face and died. And that was the fight phase.
Straight hammer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, who's first?
I'm gonna 2-point the Interceptors. So I'm gonna leave them there, and then so I'm gonna, I guess, roll for these guys. They needed 5 or less. Yeah, they're good.
Alright, so objective score was terrible for me, so I only held 2 at the beginning of the turn. I did score 2 for Data Scry salvage, so the guys in the back were doing their the Data Scry at the whole throughout, but I only had 2 objectives in the very end of the middle. Alright, so carry out your vows. I did destroy that blue squad up top with my Emperor's Champion, but guess what? He killed Helbrecht, which means I did not destroy more than he destroyed in melee. Bathe Your Blade, that's on the way. Abhor the Witch, I did kill that squad, so I gained 2 points. So right now my opponent is ready to just reap a huge amount of points just right now. So we'll see how this goes.
Alright, you guys, so movement was pretty straightforward. My yellow Grey Knights just moved forward just a hair. Everything that was in combat stayed in combat. My Chaplain moved in closer, as did my Ancient, kind of wheeled around a little bit. My green Grey Knights moved in closer to the Contemptor, as did the Librarian. And then all my Deep Strike happened. So I sent 1 group of Terminators all the way back to threaten kind of its back objective. And then the Apothecary, Drago, and the other Terminator squad came in around the Crusader and the Contemptor. And so we will see how all of that goes. But yeah, so that was kind of what happened there. Alright, you guys, so a fair bit happened in the Psychic phase. We weren't able to catch it due to just a glitch in the recording. But so here is what happened. The Purifiers did their Purifying Flame on the Primaris guys, and they did 3 mortal wounds.
Which they immediately saved, yeah, because they are 5-up, feel no pain from the Grimaldus Litany.
Yeah, and then the Brotherhood Ancient did Empiric Amplification on the big squad of Primaris. So now they take extra damage from side weapons. The interceptor smote them, and I think he killed someone.
Yes, he killed 2 neophytes.
Yeah. Or well, I think the chaplain also did a smite.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was that on the squad, and so that's how the 2 neophytes died. The Grey Knight Terminators that came in at the back of his thing gave themselves Hammer Hand because they are very much hoping for a charge. The Yellow Grey Knights didn't do anything because they're doing an objective. The other Terminator squad that came in gave themselves Hammer Hand. Then the Green Grey Knights gave themselves Hammer Hand, and luckily I was able to get all of those off. Then Drago did Vortex of Doom on the Contemptor Dreadnought, doing 4 mortal wounds, which he took straight up. And then, I think that was... Oh, and then the Red Squad of Interceptors tried to smite the Outriders, but they failed by 1. Because at that point I needed a 7, and I rolled a 6. And that was the whole psychic phase, I believe. Alright, you guys, for my shooting phase, basically, okay, so my Terminators that came in the back shot at his purple squad, had a lot of misses, failed a lot of wounds, so only,
5
went through, 5 went through, and he saved all of them somehow. Yeah, I guess that's... No, that's actually not the statistic. But anyway, and then everyone else who was able to shoot shot at the Land Raider, and they all failed. And then Drago was like, "Stand aside, guys." And 1 wound went through out of his 4 shots and did 2 damage. So I was able to do 2 damage to the Land Raider. So that was something.
All right.
And yeah, shooting phase. Alright, you guys. So in a ridiculous turn of events, literally everything that charged made it in. So my Terminators in the back made it into the Red Squad. My other Terminators made it into the Land Raider. Drago made it into the Contemptor. The Green Squad made it into his Outriders. The Green Squad of Strike Grey Knights. Strike Squad. The Apothecary made it into the Contemptor. And then my Ancient and my Chaplain also made it in, but that's not a surprise because they were within an inch. But I rolled like 5, 9, and 10-inch charges in a row, which is unheard of for me at least. Alright, you guys, so for this turn I knew he could interrupt, so I was kind of cautious on where I threw my first swings. So I had Drago swing on the Contemptor because I didn't want it to have any chance to squash him, because I am not good with saves. That would have been so unfortunate. Or I guess if he killed the Apothecary, that also would have been sad. So Drago swung, and he just beat the mess out of it. He interrupted with his Green Squad, and there was a lot of stuff that happened there. So he did 3 damage to my Purifiers, killing off 1 and leaving 1 wound on the Knight of Flame. He killed off the last of my Interceptors down there, and he did a single wound to the Chaplain. He left the Ancient alone. I have a sneaking suspicion as to why. But so he left that alone. So anyway, then he went on, with that, then I went on to my Terminators that charged in the back, and they were able to wipe the squad, and that also gave me 4 points for Teleport Assault, which was nice. And then I went on to my Green Squad of Purifiers. I don't know if they actually did very much. I think they maybe did 1 wound that went through or something. I don't know, because there were 3 there before the Red Squad swung. So, and then I went on to my Grey Knight Terminators that charged the Land Raider, and I think the regular guys didn't do anything, or maybe 2 damage or something like that.
They brought it down to 5 wounds from 13. So.
Well, before the Justicar. So then the Justicar swung with his Demon Hammer, and a lot of his damage went through, and so it did. Well, actually, it was only 2 that went through, and then 1 mortal wound. So he did 7 damage to that Land Raider, that's a lot of damage. Then I came back around to my Brotherhood Ancient, who swung with his 5 attacks. He was able to kill off 2 Neophytes, and then the Chaplain was able to kill off 2 of the other guys, the Primaris Initiates there. And then he swung with his Outriders on the Red Squad, and they did a single damage to one of my Interceptors, and then I swung with them. The Halberd guy did nothing, but the Hammer Justicar did 2 wounds went through, and those were flat 3, so he did 6 damage. So he killed off one bike and did 3 to the other. And then my Purifier swung, and I think he actually killed 2 guys as well, or something like that. Yeah, because he was doing flat 4 damage because the green squad had Empiric Amplification on it. And so this was actually a pretty good combat phase for me. A lot of stuff happened, and so there's still a little bit of game left, but we'll see how we go. Yeah.
Alright, so these guys will roll. They need a 1 or a 2. Let's see, what is their leadership? Leadership is 8 plus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I failed it by 1. Oh, shoot.
That does leave a
3,
giant
4,
open
5,
gateway
6,
for
7.
the Emperor Champion, though.
Good.
Space Marines are immune to combat attrition modifiers,
Oh, okay.
so it's just the 1.
Okay. And that's it for morale.
Alright, you guys, so for this round, I was holding 3 objectives at the start, so I was able to get 2 on the primaries. Data Scry Salvage, I'm holding 2 of the midfield objectives, so that gave me 2 points. Teleport Assault, so the Terminator's in the back, and technically Drago with the Contemptor. But anyway, so I was able to destroy a unit, and so that gave me 4 points. I got the full 3 points for Engage on all fronts, and I did not manage to do anything with Nephilim data. So yeah, so kind of okay on points this turn. We'll see how the rest of the game goes, but yeah, so pretty good.
Alright then, so for the command phase, the Chaplain Grimaldus gave the 5 of Feel No Pain to the Initiate squad next to him, squad, and then he gave the +1 attack to him and his squad of servitors. Emperor's Champion moved up, Land Raider fell back, and that was it. Alright, so for the shooting phase, the Outriders at the bottom mag dumped their guns into the red guys, their pistols, didn't do anything. Then the green squad up top fired at the one interceptor that's up there they were shooting at, but he saved the 1 wound they caused. Alright, for charges, Emperor's Champion charged the Brotherhood Ancient, made it on a 10. Grimaldus multi-charged the Interceptor and the Brotherhood Ancient, and made it all in. Alright, so for the fight phase, Emperor's Champion goes first because he has always fight first against characters, and I gave him a Warlord trait that makes him fight first in general. So he has 5 attack space, an extra because of the Warlord trait, and he's charged into combat, so because that Astartes roll gets an extra 1, so 7 attacks. Because he's fighting a character, he has reroll to hit and wound. And he did 5 wounds against my opponent using the strength, his strength abilities. And my opponent failed his saves. Well, he failed 5 of his saves, and he was just straight up dead. 3 damage each. And that was 15 victory points for Blade of Oath. The Emperor's Champion killed the Ancient. And then Grimaldus swung on that 1 Purifier, and he died by 1 failed save. My opponent did not use his reroll for that. And so then my opponent then went to the bottom and swung with his Grey Knights and stuff, swung and killed one of my Outriders, because that was the one with the wounds. I had to remove him, so he was now, that Outrider squad is now out of combat. And then the green squad of Primaris swung. They swung all their attacks on the, whatchamacallit, on the, whoever that was, that chaplain, I think? Whoever he was, the character that was there. And yeah, chaplain. And because I have Assault Doctrine, I have AP minus another addition. So my chainswords were hitting at AP minus 2. And he rolled 4 failed saves on 1s and 2s. So he would die. He spent his 1 reroll to reroll it, and he rolled another 1. And so the chaplain died, and I just gained a ton of points for Abhor the Witch and Vow. So that was actually quite the turnaround. But overall, it's still looking pretty bleak for me. Alright, so I did control 2 at the beginning of the turn, so I got 4 points for that. A Data Scry Salvage, I could not do it because he killed off the guys who could do it. And then now, Bathe Your Blade. I got the full 15 points for my Emperor's Champion. Then I got a bunch of Implore the Witch. So I killed 3 of his units, which were witches, essentially. That one solo guy, he died as a witch. So that's 2 points. And then 2 characters died, and there were 3 each. So I went all the way to 10. And carry out your vows. I have killed 3 units in melee combat in this turn, and so if you can't kill 3, then I'll get 4 points right there. And that was quite a hefty point swing, my goodness. So we'll see how this goes.
Yeah, so for movement, basically stuff kind of shuffled around. My Terminators, Drago, and the Apothecary moved closer to the Land Raider. The other Terminators moved off the objective because I'm objective secure, and so in this scenario, objective secured units, if they're the last ones on it, can hold it even if they're not there. So they're able to move off, and I'm still actually holding his back objective. And that was pretty much it. The Librarian moved up towards the Green Squad. The Green Squad moved closer to the Outriders. Yeah, just some basic shufflings. Alright, you guys, so kind of a lot happened. The Yellow Squad and both of the Terminator squads gave themselves Hammer Hand. And then the Brotherhood Librarian teleported the Red Interceptors all the way down to the bottom of the map with Gate of Infinity. And then the Green Grey Knights, I believe they tried to... Did they smite or hammer? I think they smote the outright. No, they hammer-handed and it failed. And then the Purple Interceptors smote the Outrider Sergeant, doing 3 wounds. And then the Librarian tried to smite him, and he failed, doing...
2 mortal wounds.
Perils of the Warp, doing 2 mortal wounds, but he was able to save both of them with the Aegis special rule. Apothecary doesn't really have anything in range. Drago tried to do Vortex of Doom on the Land Raider, but it did not go off because Grimaldus actually dispelled it.
Yeah, he has the ability to dispel like a Psyker once per psychic phase.
Yeah. And then the Interceptors tried to smite the Outrider down at the bottom, but could not because they needed like an 8 or something ridiculous. So, yes, that was a psychic phase. Alright guys, so what had happened was basically my bottom half, so the Apothecary, the Purple Interceptors, the Green Grey Knights, and the Librarian all shot at his one Outrider. They all have the same guns and the same ballistic skill, so I just combined them at the same time. They were able to do the 1 damage to kill him, so that was nice. And then both squads of my Terminator shot at the Land Raider to try and kill it. They did 0 damage. And then my Yellow Grey Knights shot at Grimaldus. We had a small snafu where he rolled all of them at once, even though there's mixed saves. So we rolled them again. His Cenobites died and Grimaldus took a single wound. So that was nice. And then the Red Interceptors shot at the Outrider to try and kill him like that, but it did not work because they failed all of their wound rolls. So, fun stuff. Alright, you guys, so my Red Interceptors tried to charge the Outrider. They failed. The Terminators in the back tried to charge his Purple Squad. They failed. Then my Terminators and Drago both charged the Land Raider, and they overwhelmingly succeeded. So, sweet. Alright, you guys, so for this combat phase, Drago and the Terminators attacked the Land Raider. Drago was not able to because he rolled a garbage wound roll.
He did.
Was not able to kill off the Land Raider, which meant that the Terminators had to attack it, and then they did, and then, you know, obviously it only had 2 wounds left, so they killed it. It didn't explode, but they ejected. And then I consolidated into them, and so we had a little bit of a question, just because they were in a transport, so usually if you come out of a transport, you can't attack but they were consolidated into, so we didn't really know. We just let it
Yeah,
go.
we looked it up for a while, but we couldn't really find anything that was from the past 2 years. So we didn't know where to look for it. So we just assumed he piled into them so they could swing because they haven't swung this turn. And so if we were wrong, then so be it. But we decided to just let them swing. All right.
And then they were able to wipe the squad because they are AP -5 and 3 damage flat. So
Because of
they are
Assault
quite
Doctrine.
unique in that. Yeah. Well, even still, they're -4, so that's already a problem. So anyway, so his sergeant swung, and I surprisingly was able to save almost all of them except for one. But then I did not have the same luck with when the rest of the squad swung. And yeah, so that was the combat phase. Drago's still alive though. So yeah. All right, you guys. So for points, not great on secondaries. I didn't do any of the secondary objectives. This is literally just I got all 3 of the primaries, and then I got 2 points for engage on all fronts. And so yeah, not super great. Yeah, sorry, Henry, that was my points.
However, I killed another unit and he wasn't able to kill enough. He killed my Land Raider in melee, and so that means I won Carry Out the Vows, and I gained 4 points for that. Alright, so for the movement phase, basically, did some shuffling. So Grimaldus ran towards the enemy's main objective, or home objective. Emperor's Champion also ran with him. And then after that, the Primaris Sword Brothers moved to take the second to top objective, and they basically rotate. Purple Squad move forward to take the other objective, and to support the Outrider to try to wipe out these Inceptors. Once that was done, the Assault Centurions moved towards what I deem the bigger threat at the moment, these Grey Knight Terminators, and the Apothecary ran to get near them as well. And that was my movement phase. Alright, so for shooting, essentially what happens is the Purple Squad mag dumped the Inceptors with 10 shots since they're in rapid fire range. They successfully did 1 wound, killed 1. Then the Outrider fired his guns rapid fire range and did absolutely nothing. Then the Assault Centurions mag dumped the Terminators, hit them with their bolt guns, and did a total of 19 wounds, which successfully did 5 went through, so killed 1 and did 2 wounds. Then they had 8 Flamers go through and did 19 wounds again, and this time did 3 wounds, so it finished off another one and did 2 wounds to one guy. And that is the end of my shooting phase. Alright, so for charges, the Centurions charged the Assault Terminators, got in, and then the Outrider Sergeant charged the one Interceptor and got in. Alright, so for points, I controlled 2. I'm doing horrible, absolutely horrible in my primary game. I did kill that Terminator squad, so I got another Carry Out Your Vows, but my opponent then clapped my stupid Outrider Sergeant, and so we're tied on that. And I got another Abhor the Witch for killing the Terminator squad, so I'm ahead because of the Emperor's Champion. And that's about it.
Alright, you guys, so for my psychic phase, my Librarian sent the purple Interceptors off to the corner to get engaged on all fronts. Then my yellow squad hammer-handed themselves. And then I tried a bunch of smites, and none of them went off. So the Apothecary tried to smite the other Apothecary. Then the purple guys tried to smite the Assault Centurions, didn't work. And then Drago managed to get off Vortex of Doom on the Apothecary. But he only rolled 3 mortal wounds, which was super dumb. But the Apothecary also saved 1, so he only took 2.
With his feel no pain, yeah.
Yeah, Assault Centurions took a mortal wound just for standing nearby, and then he smote them, and he did only 2 mortal wounds, which he didn't save any with the Feel No Pain. And so he was unable to kill any with his psychic powers, and the Apothecary also is still alive. So, yeah.
Yeah, so unfortunately, like, something happened, and, like, our footage it didn't record, so we're just giving the overview.
Yep. Alright. Alright, you guys, so for shooting, I had my green squad, my Librarian, my Apothecary, and the yellow squad all shoot at Grimaldus. and they managed to do 1 wound, so that was garbage. And then my purple squad shot at his assault centurions, doing nothing, and so did Drago, also doing nothing. So we'll see how we go. Yeah. Alright, you guys, so for charges, I had 2, but only 1 went through, so my Grey Knights tried to charge Grimaldus. They rolled a 5, but they are also in cover, so they did not make it at all.
Difficult terrain, which subtracts 2 from their movement. That's what they're sitting
at. Well, even with the 5, they straight up, like, they were short by an inch anyway, so I didn't have any command points to reroll it, so it is kind of what it is. And then Drago charged in. I was going to pull both in, the Apothecary and the Centurions, but I figured just deal with one thing at a time, so he's charged the Centurions, the bigger problem, although I guess he could actually bring back 1 with the Apothecary, so that's actually problematic in itself. So anyway, yeah, that was the charge phase. Alright, you guys, so for combat, Drago swung. He missed 2 on the hit, and then he missed like another 2
wounds
on the wound roll, and then he saved 1, and then he saved 1 with feel no pain. So 1 guy died, and then another guy took 2 wounds, and then they swung back and they did 6 damage from.
Actually, only the sergeant did damage.
Yeah, the rest of the squad missed. But anyway, so I killed 1 and brought 1 down to half, and then he brought Drago down to 1 wound left. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, the reason why I had to save is because I have the vow, the Black Templar vow, which gives them a 5-up invulnerable save. It's the only reason they had to save. And so 1 guy had only 1 wound left, so he died, and the other one took 2 wounds because he made a 6-up feel no pain because Drago's only doing 3 damage. And as such, and then when my assault centurion swung back the sergeant, he did 6 wounds just himself. The rest flopped. So that was combat.
Alright, you guys, so for points this turn, I forgot to do the data cry salvage again. And I have, again, not gotten no Nephilim data, which is not great. So I did get all 3 primaries, and I got 3 points for engaging all fronts. So technically, I'm still kind of in this, but we'll see how we go from here. Yeah.
Alright, so for the movement phase, Purple Squad up top moved up to get close to the Inceptor. He may be hiding from line of sight, but not charges. Green Squad is just sitting there relaxing. Grimaldus moved right up to the Grey Knights and to the Emperor's Champion. Also, Grimaldus in Litanies, he gave himself a 5-up Feel No Pain, but was unable to give the Emperor's Champion a +1 attack from the Litany. And then, apart from that, all that was left was at the end of the movement phase. The Apothecary healed the Assault Centurion that was wounded back to full health, and then he used Selfless Healer, so I didn't have to pay a CP to bring back my Assault Centurion. So my squad is back to full. And yes. Alright, so for the shooting phase, Grimaldus fired his plasma pistol at the yellow squad of Grey Knights guarding that objective, and rolled a 2. Then the Emperor's Champion fired his gun and rolled a 2 to hit. That was my shooting phase. Alright, so for charges, Grimaldus charged the Grey Knights and got an 11, so was able to get on the objective behind them. The Emperor's Champion charged them as well, and got so far he was able to basically get behind them, even though with the -2 to charge because of that terrain. And then we forgot to show it, but Purple Squad charged the Red Interceptor at the top, made it on like an 8, and got up there in combat up there as well. Alright, so with all the charges, I decided to go with the least important ones. So Purple Squad up top swung on the 1 Interceptor, and with a total of 11 attacks, because +1 attack for the first round of combat, they successfully did like 1 or 2 wounds, but they only needed 1. So the Interceptor died, I got another Abhor the Witch. Then my Emperor's Champion went, I forgot they had to go first, because they always fight first, so they swung with their high strong attacks, and basically killed off 4 of them. Then Grimaldus swung and finished off the last surviving guy with 3 attacks. 2 of them went through. And then well, that was it for my charges. So Drago swung on my Assault Centurion Sergeants, and he did 3 wounds to them. I then rolled, and because 5-up invulnerable save because of Black Templar vow, 1 of them was saved, and 2 went through, and basically because of that, I was able to roll enough 5-ups that only one of them was killed. So, well, technically speaking, it would have mattered anyway, because it's 3 damage and there are 4 wounds. So, I survived. And then my guy swung back and successfully did 1 wound to him. Actually, it was just the sergeant. It wasn't even the rest of the guys. The sergeant killed Drago, and then my opponent re-rolled the 1 roll that he failed, and then he made it. Or no, then he didn't make it, and so Drago died. And that was the combat phase. Alright, this is actually a really close game. I'm getting slaughtered on primaries because of that. So carry out your vows. I killed 3 units in this fight phase, so I have 3 markers on there. So if my opponent is not able to kill 3 units this turn, I won't be able to get an extra 4 points. Data Scry I can't do. Yeah. And it really is going to depend on the next turn. This is my last turn. Let's see what he does.
So basically, my purple strike squad moved on to the objective to just hold on to it from the assault centurions. My green Grey Knights moved farther down, my librarian moved farther down, and my apothecary moved farther up to make sure I was able to still get the engage from that angle of it. Yeah, that's it. Alright guys, so basically I Gate of Infinity to green squad over to get engaged on all fronts. And then on top of that, I just did a whole bunch of smites. So the apothecary and the librarian tried to smite Grimaldus. I think 1 wound got through, but then he saved it.
With a 5-up field no pain from the litany.
Right. And then the green squad smote the apothecary, but they failed. And then the purple squad smote the apothecary, and they succeeded with an 11.
They failed. They actually got through, but I have a Black Templar stratagem that I pay 1 CP, and on a 4-up, I stop the ability. So that's what happened.
Yeah, you're right. But then the purple squad smote him, and he died horrendously. So yeah. And that was the psychic phase. Alright, you guys, so for shooting, almost nothing happened, but the librarian and the apothecary combined shooting at Grimaldus. 4 wounds got through. He saved 2 of them. 2 went through, and then he had a 5-up field no pain that he saved both of them on. So essentially nothing happened.
Alright.
And they will need a 9. Let's see, here we go. They did not make it. Well, so this was a pretty close game. I was going to try and charge and take that last objective to give me the hold more. Was not able to make the charge, didn't have command points to reroll it. And then I just had 2 points for engage at all fronts, bringing me to 68. But he was able to get the 4 points for carry out your vows, bringing him to 69.
Yes, because last turn I slaughtered 3 enemy units in close combat, and he was only able to kill my apothecary. And so I got an extra 4 points, which put me right over the edge.
Yeah. So that is the points. Had I remembered secondaries throughout the game, it would actually be different as of right now.
Yes.
So even this last round, if I literally just remembered to do the data scry, I would have won with 70 points. So technically I did remember, but...
Well, the squad was dead. You had to have your guy in your base deployment zone do that.
No, the librarian could have done it.
Oh, okay. Well,
yeah, remember.
Yeah, that's what bites you. You could have won if you remembered to actually do your secondaries.
Just like you wouldn't have charged, but I let you redo it anyway.
Yeah.
But anyway, so that is the game, and it is done. 68-69. All right.
So game is called with Black Templars winning. And so for this game, we have our MVPs and LVPs. So for MVP, I have pretty much a tie for MVP because I had 2 incredible units that did 2 incredible things. So the tie for MVP is first the Assault Centurion Sergeant, who's pretty much a character except not. So the thing is, he would be MVP, but because of like positioning the Land Raiders and my opponent didn't have like the majority of his forces on the table first, I held them back in the Land Raider and then they got attacked. And so for 2 turns, basically, these guys were not able to do much. So they only showed up at the very end of the game. But what they did at the end of the game was incredible. They slaughtered 2 Terminator squads, and then they slaughtered Kaldor Drago. And it's absolutely incredible. The Apothecary did help by bringing him back once and healing, but absolutely slaughtered. And most of the damage was done by the Sergeant. The Sergeant was the one that actually killed Drago. He did all of his wounds hurt him. All the others failed that. And then I have the Emperor's Champion, who is really close to being on top. That's why it's so close, because he slaughtered that entire blue squad at the beginning that was contesting my back objective. He then went and scored me 15 victory points by getting in contact with his Ancient and slaughtering him, giving me 15 victory points, which really was key to winning the game. And actually, you know what I think about it, he probably is a bit better than the... because 15... yeah, a single model got me 15 victory points. And then he went and we were able to conquer their home objective with him. Unfortunately, I did not get the full version of Fulfill Your Vows thingy, secondary, but he did incredible. So, like, these two are both incredible, but probably this Emperor Champion is just a little bit more because he got me 15 victory points. Absolutely incredible. And then LVP, Helbrecht. He killed 4 purifiers and then died to 2 of them. What the crap?
Right.
What was that?
Well, to be fair, it was just the Sergeant who smushed him.
Well, the other guy did 2 wounds to him too, but like that's the thing. He has 8 wounds. He ran right up there, killed just 4 regular guys, and then just died.
Straight up died.
Absolutely pathetic.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, so for MVPs, I didn't have anyone that was really stand out. They all kind of did what they were doing. Except, obviously, I think the Purifiers, because they smushed Helbrecht with their hammers, so that was kind of funny. So that's kind of what put them there. Most of my army performed pretty well, so they're a pretty consistent army. So I didn't have any complaints too much. The only person I would say maybe on the LVP side is the Apothecary, just because kind of where he ended up getting stuck at. He was just adding models back to guys who ended up not really needing it or doing anything with it, and he never really got a chance to heal, so he wasn't really able to be used very well. And so yeah, so that's why I would say LVP. Yeah, he just wasn't able to work very well. Yeah.
All right. So overall, as far as the game, as far as Black Templars, I went with like a Black Templar flavor list to get the idea. Unfortunately, I did not get to do the Land Raider Crusader stratagem, which was actually would have been very strong because I can move and then pay 1 CP to have him disgorge all the guys inside. And then they couldn't move, but they could easily shoot and charge right afterwards. So that's very, very strong. So the idea was to have the Crusader move up 10 inches, disgorge the guys so they get 3 inches, and then they can charge up to 12 and also do their shooting. So that was very, very good stratagem, but never got to use it because I was just outmaneuvered on that front. But as far as the rest, it's like my guys hit hard. Emperor's Champion with always fight first Warlord trait +1 attack did incredibly well, slaughtered a lot. Yeah, overall this flavor is pretty good. I like how, because of the vow, the Centurions can have a whatchamacallit, 5-up invulnerable save. Really helps. So their Assault Centurions are actually very strong if you give them the right support. Pretty viable. Give them transport of a Land Raider Crusader. They can basically penetrate through enemy lines. Have an Apothecary with them to keep standing them back up. Champion did incredible. Chaplain Grimaldus did really, really good, moving everyone with his buffs and stuff, and his litanies really helped. The 5-up Feel the Pains really, really helped. The Crusader squads, it's kind of an interesting note because they really aren't that strong against other Space Marines because of Armor of Contempt really nerfs a lot of their cutting power. But overall, it's a bit of a mix. It's hard to say. Maybe less Outriders would have been better. I just felt like I needed more mobility, but that didn't really matter too much. Maybe a Dreadnought instead of the Outriders each, and another Crusader squad to fight. That probably would have been better. But yeah, so far it's the Black Templars were fun. They're very interesting, pretty fun. A lot of interesting abilities, very nice close combat-y, very melee, very strong melee. So I like them. They're pretty fun to play.
Yes. Hold on one second. I apparently got to go get some burning potatoes out of the oven. Give me 1 second. Yeah. So I actually liked the army that I had. I think Grey Knights are really consistent when it comes to their damage. Not their shooting damage, granted. Their shooting damage is garbage. Especially against other Space Marines, or really anything with armor.
Yeah, they're really strong in combat. Like, their ridiculous weapons, their damage they're doing, the amount of attacks the base guys get. They're a very powerful combat army.
Yeah, so it's... I mean, to me, they're definitely a melee army. There's probably... Well, first off, I forgot my secondaries, like, the entire game. So, that was annoying. And there's a lot of things I could have done that actually would have gave me the win. But I literally just kept forgetting. So even just the one extra of the mission secondary would have done it. But so they're mobile, they're strong. I think they're really good. I think I had probably some bad pairings. So like Drago probably shouldn't have gone after the Assault Centurions, especially with the invulns. Definitely should have tried to at least kill the Apothecary first. I was originally going to have him, so because he rolled really bad against the Land Raider, because what I was going to do is I was going to have the Terminators at the time consolidated and swing on the Assault Centurions and stuff after he destroyed the Land Raider, but he failed miserably on that one. And then, but yeah, so I don't know. No, so the combat was good. Their shooting isn't really anything, but yeah, I probably should have tried to balance. Like once, especially the game was set, like I could have easily moved around, and just kind of played maybe a later game in it. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard to say how things went. Is like you somewhat out-combat me. Well, against my Outriders, yeah.
Well, yeah. And except that green one, they lasted forever for some reason.
Well, they had all the buffs, and there was a huge number of them, so... it's really hard to say what could have done better, but, like... I don't know. It's hard to say. You were able to easily outmaneuver me, but I kind of knew you were going to deep strike, but I couldn't really have anything. I was gonna like go back and forth between the attack objectives with the Land Raider because of his huge movement. I could easily just go back and disgorge the Centurions and retake the base objective. But well, it went better this way.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know. I think it was good. I just literally forgot my secondaries, and that is what ended up losing me the game. Because I was winning on the primaries, so I was doing well there for myself.
Yeah,
and that stupid teleport assault thing, it does not work for me at all.
Well, you got every single charge. Every single charge.
Yeah, the first turn, those deep strikes, I got all of those charges. That was crazy. But then literally every other time I tried to use it, like with the Gate of Infinity or whatever, they never made the charge, they never did the damage, or they whiffed or whatever it was. And so that one's actually like, it sounds like it'd be easy to do, but it's actually not easy to do. And so that's 0 for 2. And then I probably should have guessed doing something like Nephilim data with, even though I had a lot of units, and that's kind of why I thought I could pull it off, still not enough to pull it off with an army like Grey Knights. So I don't think they're really something like a Nephilim data type army. Engage in all fronts, sure, but not Nephilim data, or something that has to take a unit constantly out of action.
Yeah, but apart from that, it was a really close game. If we each played better, who knows what it would have been like.
What do you mean? You played just fine.
Well,
I should have just moved my ancient away, honestly.
I was
I
like,
don't know why it literally didn't even occur to me, even though I knew exactly what it was like. And so even if I just ran him away the whole game. Anyway, so a lot of little things. But yeah. So
yeah, if you played slightly better this game, you would have won if you would have literally just remembered. And you know what the funny thing is? You could I'm so close, but I kind of won because I went first because I got 3 points from Data Scribe.
yeah.
And or I could say that I won because Emperor's Champion. Just like lots of small
I don't know,
things.
because then if you got the last turn, you probably would have kept me off of this objective over here.
Yeah.
Because then you would have charged my guys over there.
Yeah.
And so I don't know.
Yeah, that is true. So it is really hard to say.
Of course, who knows what the map would actually look like if I went first as opposed to you.
Yeah.
So that's a whole nother. But yeah. So I mean, it was a good game. It literally just the little things that lost me this game.
That's usually what does it. At least.
Yeah. Well, not always, but. Yeah, but I don't know. I like the Grey Knights. I think definitely having the Demon Hammers with a sergeant in each squad is a big deal. Because they don't have they have shooting, just like raw number shooting, but it's not really going to carry any weight unless you're fighting someone like Genesteed or Colts or Orcs or I don't know, Tau or whatever.
Yeah, but I'm
Guard.
honestly surprised. Black Templars have the best assault centurions. The fact that they can give their sergeant weapon skill 2 and 1 extra attack, that is a big deal. He was slaughtering him, so many Terminators, and he killed Drago. It was all his attacks. Yeah. All right, so GG's. GG.